Welcome to the Dr. Dance Mom podcast, your guide to strong dancers with a bright future. I'm your host, Dr. Tara Christensen, doctor of physical therapy, dance medicine specialist, and proud dance mom. Let's dive into today's episode. Hello, and welcome back to the Dr. Dance Mom podcast. Welcome to episode 2. In this episode, I wanted to take some time to talk about some holiday gift ideas for your dancer. This is something that I've seen a lot of people talking about, asking about online in different forums, and I personally am someone who loves gift giving. So this is always something I'm thinking about around the holidays for my dancer. So I thought it would be really fun to compile a list of things that might be great gift suggestions. Some are inspired by things I've done in the past, and some are just things that I thought would be great additions to the list. If you're listening to this episode on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, there is also a rendition of this episode on YouTube with a lot of visuals. So if you have some time and you want to see the visual aspect of this episode, head on over to YouTube where you can see visual examples of all of these items. So in doing my research and putting this episode together, I kind of came up with a few different categories that I'll talk through today. And the first one is things that you can purchase at your local dance store to support your local dance store as a small business. I do try to support small businesses as much as possible. I know Amazon is super convenient and some things really can't be found elsewhere, very conveniently at least. But for the most part, if you can support your local small dance store, I definitely encourage that. So to start off the episode, I'm going to talk through some things that you can find at your local dance store. The first thing is leotards. My dancer last year needed some new leotards around the holidays. So we did go to our local dance store and she tried on a bunch of different leotards. She wanted some things that had some color to them and were a bit unique. So we were able to find a couple that she really loved that she could wear in the classes where she's allowed to wear colored leotards. So that was one of her Christmas gifts last year she really enjoyed. The second thing is warm-up boots. So these are something that I think are really important at competitions. My daughter has them. I should say she doesn't wear them probably as much as she should. However, it's important to note that once your dancer's kind of warmed up for the day, or if they, run through their dance and they're warming up for a group or they're solo, if they're sitting for a period of time between their warm up and when they go on stage, by the time they go on stage, they're likely not warmed up anymore. And so in order for them to stay warm, their body needs to stay physically warm. Most of the competitions that we attend are at high schools or similar type buildings, and sometimes the floors are cold. So if they're walking around in a thin dance shoe, a turner, or barefoot, their feet are going to get cold, which is going to put them at risk for an injury. So these warm-up boots are great. They can kind of wear them around after they've warmed up, keep their feet nice and warm in between their dances or as they're waiting to go on stage. The link I have here is to Amazon, but I believe most local dance stores carry these. Another thing you can find there are ballet skirts or shorts to wear over their leotards. They often have really great variety of styles and prints and things like that. So definitely look for those. Convention wear and separates, that's another great thing that you can purchase at your local store. You can also find a lot online, but again, the local stores have usually a pretty good selection as well. A dance bag. So if they need a new dance bag, that's something that you can usually find at the local dance store, as well as any dance-related jewelry or other small gift items. Of course, you can always restock things like tights, hairpins, any other accessories that they might need are usually available at the local dance store. The next group of things I'm going to talk about are available on Amazon. These are things that I found on Amazon. You can probably find them at other retailers as well. I know I've seen different iterations of these items at different retailers. In terms of Black Friday deals, Cyber Monday deals, I haven't thoroughly researched those. But if you look around, I'm sure you can find best prices on these things if you're interested. I have linked in the description Amazon links to these items, but there are multiple examples of these items on Amazon. So you may have to look around to see which item has the best price. So the first thing is a portable makeup mirror. This is a nice compact one that folds and even has lights on it. That's great to throw in their dance bag if they need that for the studio or if, they're at dress rehearsals or something like that. The next thing is a portable jewelry box. And so I've seen lots of these online from different retailers. These are really great for if your dancer is going straight to the studio after school. I know in my daughter's studio, they don't allow them to wear jewelry in class. So if they're wearing jewelry to school and they want a safe place to store it in their bag so it doesn't get lost, then this is a great idea for their dance bag. A dance bag shoe organizer. This thing is not necessarily meant for just dance, but it hangs on a garment rack and it's a great addition to their competition bag. My daughter has one in hers and it's really helpful for her just to have kind of a designated slot for each of her sets of dance shoes. She also tends to use some of the openings for, say, a leotard and some shorts if she might need that for something, or undergarments or things like that that are smaller that she doesn't want to get lost in the bottom of her dance bag. So this can be a really helpful organizer for the duffel bag. There are several other items that are really great for dancers to have on hand just for conditioning purposes, working on flexibility at home. The first are resistance band loops. Dancers can do a lot of different types of exercises with these loops. Sometimes they may even use them in class for conditioning, but having a set of these at home is a great tool to have just so that they can kind of work on some of these conditioning activities on their own. The next thing is a stretching strap. And so this is not an elastic stretching strap. This is a nylon stretching strap that has loops sewn into it. And this can be a really great aid that dancers can use at home if they're working on their flexibility. The next item is a 9-inch Pilates ball. This can be a really great aid for the dancer if they're working on some conditioning exercises at home. There are endless numbers of exercises that dancers can do with this ball to help work on strengthening and conditioning. So this is nice and compact and easy to store in the home. Yoga blocks are another great tool to have to work on both mobility work and sometimes even strength work. So again, just great compact tools to have for a conditioning program. The next item is a makeup train case. My daughter has one that's very similar to this. And actually we started initially with a caboodle. So they're, the ones that are modeled after the 90s caboodles. That was our first makeup case. We quickly found that it was not big enough. And so for Christmas, I think 2 years ago, my daughter got a case like this and we've used it for a couple seasons now. It's been really great because it has all of these different compartments that you can kind of organize your makeup in. She really enjoys it and it's been a great addition to her organization. The next thing is a folding stool, and some dance duffel companies sell an iteration of this. I feel like it's the same exact stool that you can buy here on Amazon. These are really great to have in your duffel for competitions. My daughter uses hers a lot when she's doing quick changes, if she needs to change tights, or for example, a couple years ago, she had a hip hop costume that was a unitard. And the leg openings were extremely small. It was like a very, very tight, form-fitting costume. And she definitely needed to sit in order to be able to get her feet in through the openings of the leg holes. So this was a great tool to have for her, especially if she needed to do a quick change so she could just sit and get that costume on. The Snackle box is the next thing on my list here. And this I know has gotten a lot of attention in the dance competition community over the past couple of years. These can be purchased pretty much anywhere at this point, but these are really great for packing a variety of foods for your dancer to snack on throughout the day during competitions. And I can't stress enough how important it is for them to have a variety of healthy snacks at their disposal throughout the day. I think grazing is a great strategy to keep them fueled throughout the day, as they're usually kind of all over the place, running through dances, doing costume changes, running on and off stage between their routines. So staying fueled should be a priority. And this is a great way to do that, just having it available to them in their duffel or in their dressing room so that they can access it whenever they are hungry and have a second to eat. Makeup erasers are the next item on the holiday list, and these are wonderful. We have the makeup eraser brand that we've been using in our home for a couple of years. We find them to be super effective, and these are kind of an Amazon off-brand iteration of those makeup erasers. They are quite a bit cheaper. We haven't tried them, so I haven't tested them to see if they're just as effective. But for a lot of dancers, they may have reactions to some of the chemicals in some of the makeup wipes. I also find that the makeup wipes tend to dry out really quickly, and so that can be really frustrating if you need one in a pinch and they are dry. These cloth makeup erasers are great because they're reusable, so you just wash them in your washing machine and they are reusable over and over again. But they also just require water. If you have to do a makeup change between numbers, or if your daughter gets lipstick all over her face, you just need to dampen this with a little bit of water, and it works wonders. So this is a great tool to have in your dance bag. The next item is a yoga mat. I should probably categorize this with the other conditioning and flexibility tools. I do suggest a 1/2 inch to 1 inch thick yoga mat. I find that most of the kids that I work with appreciate that because usually they complain that it kind of hurts their knees or their wrists or their hands to have to kneel on the floor. I would say if you're having to bring a yoga mat to the studio, this can be a great tool as well, just because the studio floors are hard. So it does provide a little bit more cushion for them. The next item I would recommend is actually a book, and this is Tyler Peck's new book. It's called XO Ballerina Big Sis. And my daughter and I have actually started to read this book together, and I will say I definitely recommend it for young dancers. There's a lot of really great wisdom and advice in the book. We're not fully through it yet, but we've read about 50% of it, and my dancer is really enjoying it. And I think that there's a lot of great wisdom in there that can be passed down to younger dancers. So I think this would be a great addition, especially if your dancer does like to read. The next item on my Amazon list is a portable folding hanging mirror. These are almost like a full-length mirror for your competition duffel bag. They hang kind of on the end of the garment rack, and my dancer loves to have this in her bag on competition days. If she needs to do a lipstick touch-up, it's much easier to utilize than a small mirror. And she can kind of check to see how her costume's looking. And it's just been a really fun addition for her to have in her bag. So she really enjoys having that available. Another item is an enamel pin display case. We know our kids get a ton of competition pins throughout the year. We were struggling trying to figure out what to do with all of those pins, and this display case has been wonderful. We actually filled one already. This is a larger version that I've linked in the description, and we plan to add that next into her collection for this year so that she has a little bit more space to display her pins. We have not particularly loved hanging them on her jacket. She just finds them to be too cumbersome and it's a little bit too heavy for her. So this is a great way that she can display them, and it's kind of a bit practical as well. The next item on my Amazon list is a dance floor. So if your dancer doesn't have a designated space to practice, then this might not be super practical in your home. But if you do have a playroom or an area where your dancer does like to practice, this is just a nice little dance floor square that they can utilize to give them a better surface to dance on. My daughter has one that's homemade that we bought secondhand, so that's always an option as well. There are a bunch of different tutorials online where you can find the materials and the instructions on how to make your own little dance floor square for home. So DIY is great as well. Another item that goes along with the dance floor is a ballet bar. That can be a great tool for your dancer to have at home just to practice technique. And if they like to work on their technique or take some additional online classes, a ballet bar is a great tool for them to have access to. In addition, I've looked a little bit into finding some dancewear dupes on Amazon. There are a couple brands that I like. One is called CRZ Yoga, and they have a pant and a jogger that are very similar to some of the other popular dance pants at a fraction of the cost. I think they're around $35 or $40, so much more affordable. There's also a great yoga jacket that's linked in the description that looks very similar to some of the others that are available at a higher price. And some dance pants with a tall inseam. I am about 5'10". I also have a daughter who is probably 5'11" at this point. She's just past me. And finding pants that fit tall people can be really challenging. So I really wanted to include this link in here as well for any tall dancers that may need some guidance. There's a great quarter zip that I found on Amazon as well that dancers might like. So I've linked that in the description also. Moving on to some other tools that dancers can use. Another product that I highly recommend for dancers is Apollo socks. My daughter has a bunch of these, as you can see. We have like kind of a little bag full here of different styles and varieties. And I am a huge advocate for Apollo because of the uniqueness of the product. There are other compression socks out there, but these were developed by a dancer for dancers. If you've ever checked out their products, you've seen there's quite a few different iterations of their products that mimic dance shoes. And these products are great because they mimic the benefits of a shoe in a sock. My dancer used them initially when she was dealing with a foot injury. She started using them a couple of years ago. It was in the middle of competition season. She'd been dancing a lot barefoot and she was having some pain under her metatarsals. And so I kind of looked at it. We were triaging it a little bit, but it just wasn't improving quick enough. So I took her to the orthopedist. We put her in a boot for a week, did an MRI just to make sure she didn't have a stress fracture or any sort of stress reaction that was forming. And everything was good. So as we worked her back, we made sure she was using Apollo socks to support her foot. And they really helped a ton. Honestly, her pain resolved and we didn't have any issues for the rest of the season. Now, that's not necessarily going to be the case for everyone. And I don't recommend using them to replace any sort of other device or medical advice that you're receiving. However, they can be very helpful. They have the benefits of a shoe, but in a sock, and they don't restrict range of motion, which is nice. So they provide a lot of great arch support for dancers that may need that. They also, if they are kind of coming back from a bit of an injury, or like in my daughter's case, she just had some increased inflammation in her foot just from a lot of the repetitive concussion on the floor. They really help to reduce swelling and increase blood flow. The targeted compression really helps to stabilize the foot and ankle as well. So it almost gives the feeling like it's in a light brace, which can be great if they're doing increased hours of rehearsals during competition season, but also just to give them a little tiny bit more stability if they need it. The other thing I like about these is they do have some extra padding like under the metatarsals. So this is black, so it's a little hard to see, but they are a little bit thicker under the metatarsals. So it just helps with shock absorption, which is really what my dancer needed at the time. The padding helps to also reduce impact, and the compression helps to increase circulation. These are great for conventions. So if your dancer does do conventions and they're dancing day after day in class and then they're competing, these are a really great tool for them to wear either in between times when they're dancing, so during their rest periods, early in the morning as they're getting ready, or in the evening after they're finished dancing for the day. These are backed by studies, so they've done a lot of great studies on Apollo products, and they have been shown to do exactly what they say they do. They're very well constructed and they last a long time. So we got our first pair 2 years ago. Granted, she doesn't wear them every single day, but she does also wear them to school and out and about. And we really haven't had any issues with getting holes or having any other issues with them coming apart. So I do highly recommend them. They're a very good quality product. They are a little bit more on the pricey side, but for good reason. There's a lot of benefits to Apollo products that you don't necessarily get in others. They would make a great holiday gift for your dancer. Another item that would make a great holiday gift are any sort of dance pants. I know the Lululemon pants are really popular. My daughter had been asking for them for years. Again, there are some Amazon links that I have for similar products, but I feel like the holidays is a great time to splurge a little bit and provide them with something like that. If you can afford it, it fits in your budget, and if you think your dancer would enjoy it. For the growing dancer, sometimes I think you have to use discretion. My dancer's a preteen, so she's slowed down in her growth trajectory. They also only make sizes for adults, as far as I know anyway. But the smallest adult sizes do fit some, taller children. You do want to consider if your child is still growing, because of course there's a bit more of an expense for this product. It's a little bit more of a premium product. And so you do want to take that into consideration. And you may want to go with something a little bit more cost effective until they're finished growing. But my dancer did receive a pair for Christmas last year, and she does wear them regularly to the studio and does really enjoy having them. So that can be a great holiday gift. The next thing is a dance duffel. There are many different products out there that you can choose from. There's different benefits and drawbacks to each of them, I would say. So there's a lot of different online reviews that you can find if you search them. We have a Dream Duffel. 2 years ago, they had a huge sale, and there was not a huge difference between the medium size and the large size in terms of price. So I went with the large. The large is huge, just so you know. My daughter could fit inside of it, and she could probably fit a friend in there with her. It is gigantic. The other thing I will say about Dream Duffel that I have learned, I had a small size Dream Duffel prior to the large. We just needed more space, so we were looking to upgrade. In both cases, when we had the small and then the large, the garment rack bar is not the sturdiest. So I do recommend maybe looking at some other options for that reason. We do enjoy it. We have replaced the garment rack in ours once already, which they did free of charge. They sent us a new one because it had broken. But from what I've heard, the construction on the garment rack has maybe been improved since then. Like I said, ours is a couple years old. So it's a great bag, and it has a lot of other great features, but our experience has just been that the garment rack is just not the sturdiest. I don't have a lot of experience with some of the other products, but some other brands to look into are Rack and Roll, Glamour Gear, Pack to Rack. There's also the Grit Dance Tower, which is put together a little bit differently. Some people like to use Hulken bags for competitions. They hold a lot, especially the large. We do have a large, and we used it as a competition bag for nationals this year because my daughter only had 1 to 2 dances per day, and I really didn't want to, trek all the way to nationals with the large Dream Duffel. So it saved some space in our car. We were able to drive to nationals. And we purchased a trunk organizer for the car that was the right size to fit into the bottom of the large Hulken bag. So it actually helped keep its shape. And We used it to organize some of her smaller items. And then we bought a portable garment rack from Amazon that comes apart into pieces. And so we use that each day. It was a little bit more clunky to put together each day, but it worked and it served its purpose. So I would say that that's a great option if you're on a budget, or any other sort of rolling bag you could certainly use. Glamour Gear also has a solo bag that, from what I've seen in terms of the reviews, holds up to 3 to 4 costumes, depending on the size of the costume. So that's something that we might look into this year, just for later days where we don't have as many costumes to bring with us. The Dream Duffel that we have is great for, bigger competition days where we have a bunch of group numbers and she's got a bunch of costumes. But it is nice to have something a little bit smaller if you don't have as many costumes on a given day. Some additional things I found on Etsy are some dance crock charms that would make great stocking stuffers, things like ring dishes, dance-related t-shirts and sweatshirts. There's some really great sellers on Etsy that make some customized items in terms of t-shirts and things. If your dancer has a duet partner and they want some matching shirts or something like that, that's a great option. They also have some personalized things like makeup bags, blankets. You can also get some really fun customized laser engraved water bottles that are more dance oriented. So a water bottle, good water bottle, is a great gift as well, because they do need to stay hydrated at competition. A couple other things that we found on Etsy that I have linked below are these really cute dance quotes pencils. So those are great little like school supplies that they can have with them. I also found, and there's a bunch of different listings here as well, a dance notes choreography book. So this is a really cute item if your dancer is into choreographing their own pieces. It's just a little notebook that they can kind of jot down what their choreography is. They can also just make some notes if they're into taking notes after class or rehearsals or things like that. So that's a really cute option. I found these really, really cute keychains. They're called album cover keychains, but they have a scannable Spotify code and they're customized. So these are a really great gift for anybody really, but marketed to seniors, where you can put a picture of them in their costume, let's say for their solo, or it could be a duet with a scannable Spotify code for the song. So I thought that was a really, really cute, meaningful, customizable gift. They also have these cute customizable dance pin banners. So similar to the shadow box that I was talking about earlier, this is just something to hold their pins, but they have some items here that can be customized in your studio colors. You can put a logo on it. So I thought that was really cute, your dancer's name, etc. All right, moving on to a list of stocking stuffers. These are just some different stocking stuffer ideas that I came up with that I've used in the past with my dancer, and just some things that I might use in the future as well. Eyelashes. We go through so many eyelashes in a given season. So stocking up on eyelashes, that's a great stocking stuffer. An eyelash curler, extra hair nets for competition season, eyeliner. Getting good eyeliner is key. I've linked here a lash applicator, which saved me this last season. My daughter is not yet comfortable putting her own lashes on. She still wants me to do it, but I feel like I have really fat fingers, and every time I go to put her lashes on, the glue gets stuck to my fingers, then the lashes get stuck to my fingers, and it's really hard to place them well as a result of that. So I found this, I think it's Sephora randomly. I was just there looking at the clearance section and they had one for like $3. So I picked it up. This saved me so much all season. It's so much easier to get them placed much more accurately so that they're not like above the lash line. And they don't stick to your fingers. So this has really been a game changer for us. It helped us get them on a lot faster and just made the application so much easier and look nicer. Another item I've linked here is a hair taming wand. So this is a great little thing for flyaways. So really super quick fix when, in between numbers without having to, continue layering on the hairspray, which we do anyway. A portable charger is a great option for your dancer to have in their bag during competitions. A power strip is a great idea too, but there's not always an abundance of outlets. So if they have a portable charger, they need to charge their phone or something like that. This one that I've linked here is great because it has different ends on it that plug into different types of inputs. So this would be a great one to have on hand if they've got different types of devices. A hair accessories kit. So I found this on Amazon, but there's also customized ones on Etsy. So this hair accessories kit is a really cute thing to have in their dance bag. It's got extra hair ties, hair nets, hairpins, etc. So this is a nice thing for them to have in their bag on hand at all times if they need to fix up their hair. Another thing that we use all the time is a hair wax stick. This one that I found and linked has combs with it as well. So just a couple of tools to help do their hair a little bit easier. Another thing I love to put in my dancer's stocking, and she actually really appreciates it, is her favorite deodorant. She loves to keep deodorant in her dance bag. And there's a specific one that she likes that's seasonal from Target. It's the native sugar cookie scent. So I usually get her a couple of those to last her a little while, and I'll put those in her stocking. Another thing is this Hairpin Pal item. This one is a name brand. I think it may be one of the original iterations of this item, but there are some generic type ones and other brands on Amazon as well. They're just basically a big magnet that holds their bobby pins. We have a couple of them. We have one that she keeps in her dance bag to have extra hairpins. We also have another one that she keeps in her dream duffel for competition with extra hairpins. And then we have one that she keeps in the bathroom for when she's doing her hair for ballet class. These are really great tools to have around the house. They end up on the floor anyway, but it's great to keep them kind of organized. Some other ideas for gifts: dance studio gear or team jacket. So if they're selling those things at your studio at this time of the year, those can be really great gifts just to have some team gear or company gear that they can wear at competitions, on stage, etc. A cute fleece blanket. We like to keep a blanket in her duffel. I wouldn't say she uses it all the time, but some of her friends do. At competitions, again, keeping warm is so important, and I can talk about that in another episode. But especially some of these venues, if the air conditioning is cranked, it can get pretty cold in there. So having a blanket that they can just wrap around themselves without having to layer a jacket on top of a costume can be a really great way for them to do that. A good water bottle. So whatever's trendy at the moment. I know Stanleys were huge a while ago. Now Owala seemed to be the thing, at least in my daughter's kind of circle of friends. I just found a great Owala at Home Goods the other day. So I saw Stanley water bottles, Owala water bottles, and a few other big name brands at Home Goods for reduced prices. So definitely check those out. A good pair of headphones. If your dancer likes to isolate themselves and maybe just kind of run their dance in their head or run it themselves, a really good pair of headphones would be great to have during competition season. A couple of other ideas that are a little bit outside the box are a dance photo shoot. Last year, my daughter really wanted to do the photo shoot with the silks, and we used that as a Christmas gift. They were coming around our area in November, so it was pretty close to Christmas. So we did that as a Christmas gift, and she absolutely loved it. Another thing would be if family is looking for some kind of dance gift, to have them cover some tuition or competition fees. I know it's not probably the most exciting gift to receive, but it can be really helpful. And then also some fun things to do when you're at nationals. So we go to a shore town for nationals every year, and there's a bunch of different things that you can do there. Of course, my daughter really enjoys going on the piers on the boardwalk and going on the rides with her friends. So usually as a Christmas gift, we'll purchase some ride tickets or wristbands or things like that for them to do while they're at nationals. So that can be a really great gift and something for them to look forward to if you're looking for something that's a little bit more of an experience gift. Now I'm going to go over a few things that I don't recommend getting your dancer for Christmas, or for the holidays, whatever holiday you celebrate. These are things that people will recommend purchasing at times, but I personally, in my experience, don't feel that they add any value. One of the things is ankle weights. Ankle weights can on occasion be a helpful training tool when they're used correctly, but they're very often used incorrectly in terms of dance conditioning. They typically should not be left on for an entire conditioning session, and they should not be used with any impact activities. I feel pretty strongly about this as a dance medicine specialist, especially for dancers who are growing. Many of the dancers that I encounter, even not even in the rehab setting, when I go and do screenings, have a lot of weakness in and around their core and their hips. And due to the length of the leg, even a small amount of weight on the ankle has a very large effect on the forces placed at the knee and the hip. If the core and the hips are already weak or out of balance, then it can lead to an injury. It's not necessary to get an appropriately challenging workout. There are so many exercises that dancers can do with just their body weight that will give them a very challenging and strenuous workout. So I really don't recommend them, especially if the dancer hasn't been shown how to properly use them. They can easily overload, overtrain muscles, and they also don't get an appropriate amount of rest or varied and graded resistance throughout the exercise program if they're using them continuously throughout the entire conditioning session. So I don't recommend using ankle weights or including them in your dancer's training accessories. Foot stretchers are another thing that I don't recommend buying your dancer. And there's a few different reasons for this. Most dancers, even if they're working on their point range, do not necessarily need to stretch their feet. A lot of them need strengthening. There are a group of muscles that live in the bottom of the foot, in the arch, and they help to shape the foot. So a great place to start is with strengthening exercises to work on the strength of the intrinsic muscles of the foot. The other thing that people don't realize that foot stretchers do, and I've got a model here just to kind of demonstrate a little bit, is they put a tremendous amount of force through the joints of the foot. So if we look at this foot model here, you can see how many bones and joints there are in the human foot. Okay. So now we've got dancers who are young, who are still growing. So their growth plates have not yet closed. Okay. And we're putting a lot of force through the top of the foot in that foot stretcher. So in that position, this is what we're doing to the foot and the ankle, right? So we're providing overpressure to the top of the foot, and we're really cranking on the joints of the foot and the ankle. Now, as I move this model, and this is, this model is not very tightly put together, but as I flex the top of the foot, you can see all the separation that we're getting there in the midfoot, okay, between those bones. So what ends up happening with foot stretchers in some cases is that all the ligaments that hold these joints together, they get overstretched and lengthened. Ligaments, once they're lengthened, they don't return to their original length. So it's not like a muscle where they contract and relax and they can be a little bit, malleable. Ligaments, once stretched, they're not elastic. So they're going to stay at that length, which means we're potentially creating some joint instability or hypermobility where there wasn't before. A lot of that just opens your dancer up for injury in the future. So I don't recommend foot stretchers. It can be especially dangerous for people with flat feet who already don't have great support to that midfoot, or dancers who have already had a history of foot and ankle injuries. What they may need instead is targeted joint mobilization to the midfoot or the rear foot if that's what's restricting their mobility there. But they should really see a professional and have a consult if that's the case and they're really stuck and not making progress versus, providing a lot of overpressure through a foot stretcher in order to try to get there. So that would be my recommendation instead. Another thing I don't recommend buying your dancer that you may find online is a stretching strap with an anchor over the top of a door frame. So a lot of them have pulley systems, and unfortunately what happens there is you can easily create an injury by overstretching. And in those cases, a lot of the dancers that are using them they've not been properly trained on what an appropriate stretch should feel like. Sometimes they may be told that stretching should hurt, which it should not. So stretching should never be super painful. What I find a lot of young dancers do by default is when they're trying to stretch their hips, they end up just kind of dumping into their lower back and creating a lot of excessive extension through their lumbar spine. These over door systems can accentuate that. And because they're on a pulley, a dancer can create a lot of force in a very short period of time. So if they happen to, let's say, pull a leg and they do it really quickly, they can actually create an injury by doing that. So I really caution parents against using those types of pulley systems for stretching. The other thing that I don't necessarily recommend are turning boards. They're completely unnecessary. What they do is they reduce friction so the dancer can, in theory, turn a little bit faster or work on spotting. They don't replicate the surface that the dancer is going to be dancing on, either in training or on stage. So as a training tool, they really don't help the dancer to sort out issues in their technique that probably need to be addressed. The thing that they might be better off working on is their strength. I usually find if a dancer is having difficulty turning, there could be a couple of different contributing factors. One could be difficulty with spotting, which may just be something that they need some coaching on. Another thing might be their balance overall, so they can work on their balance. And then the other thing might be strength, overall strength in their core or stability through their hip and pelvis. And those are things that just need some targeted training. The other thing could just be that their technique is off and they need a little bit of private coaching in order to work that out. There are multiple different systems that will contribute to those things. And again, that's for another podcast, but it's important to know that turning boards are not necessarily going to be the solution to help your dancer turn better. The last thing that I don't recommend getting your dancer for the holidays is the most expensive dancewear. I know there's trends that occur and kids love to be on trend, but to be honest, it's not necessary. You don't have to have the most on-trend convention wear in order to go to a convention and be successful and get a scholarship. It really doesn't matter. So work on your dancer's skill set, invest in things that are actually going to help them improve their technique and their skills, and the rest will fall into place. And that about wraps it up for this episode. So please let me know your thoughts on anything you would add to this list, any thoughts on some of the things that are included in this list. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And please let me know in the comments if there's anything in this episode that you would love for me to elaborate on in future episodes. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and learned something. Please be sure to follow or subscribe so you don't miss a thing. Also, make sure you head over to Instagram and YouTube and follow us there. Send us your listener questions, topic suggestions, and feedback at drdancemompodcast@gmail.com. That's Dr. fully written out, Dance Mom Podcast, also fully written out, @gmail.com. Thanks so much for listening.